Hey, everybody. So I have to wonder if Typhoid Tim is potentially getting a little bit of a case of laryngitis, and is the Christmas wish I wanted coming true? Anyway, Tim has a very strange story, in my opinion, allegedly about speaking to his doctor on the phone. I don't know. It just sounds very strange and it sounds very Tim. And we know that he can be quite uh dishonest on occasion. But anyway, let me throw out my fair use, everybody. Let's get that started. Everybody knows we're going to transform Tim's content and we are going to make something amazing with this video he released this morning. And these are just my opinions only. This is my commentary. I don't treat or diagnose, but in this video, this one is more of my wheelhouse. So I am going to talk a little bit more about Tim's health, especially when it comes to the story that he is saying around his conversation with the doctor on the phone, which I have questions about because it just seems very unlikely in my experience that this conversation could have taken place. One, especially at this time of year in December, when obviously a lot of illnesses are going around. Secondly, it's the holidays and the likelihood that Tim was just able to call and speak to a doctor on the phone and not speak to a nurse who's triaging and all this thing about it. Anyway, it basically it's something that I just don't think in my experience happened. And I've worked triage, and so I have some experience in this arena. All right, Tim. And also I'm training to be a provider, so I understand how you do differential diagnosing, and it's not any of the things that Tim's talking about. So it sounds like Tim has potentially hodgepodge some stories together that he's heard from other people, maybe taken from his comment section. Not to say that Tim isn't feeling good, but some of this stuff, something's weird. Anyway, I'm making me small. We're making Tim big. He's at 1.25. Take it away, Tim.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Sarasota Tim, coming to you from inside the crasher here. This is not a video I enjoy making. About 3 days ago, I started feeling bad over in the village.
Okay, so I should probably let him finish. But my initial thought, one, he's coughing. He's not coughing in the crux of his elbow. So Typhoid Tim out just spreading illnesses wherever he goes. Tim is obviously, and I'm not saying he doesn't not feel good, and he looks a little flushed. His eyes are, red and bloodshot, but the one eye is always red and bloodshot, and the other eye isn't quite as watery as the one that obviously looks like it's got the glaucoma. He has had time and attention to get his hair gel on, get his shirt on, get up, get dressed. You'll see at the end he's been drinking coffee. If this is the worst you've ever felt in your life, Tim, then that's pretty good going in a lifetime. So, so far, I'm thinking that, stay home, practice good hand hygiene, drink some fluid, get some chicken noodle soup, don't run around. Give it a couple of days. Start making videos. You don't need to be making 10 videos a day. And if you're well enough to make a video, Tim, you're not that sick. I promise you.
And just sort of, it creeped up, it wasn't too bad. I felt like I was losing my voice, and something in the back of my throat here was hurting. And anyway, it progressed.
That's probably your larynx, Tim. And you have strained your voice because you make so many videos and talk, incessantly into the camera. So that's going to be something. You have been traveling across country and took a very long trip and did it in a very short amount of time in a season when there are a lot of illnesses around. You also are at a higher risk factor at 65. So, you should be grateful you got that, old people flu shot, but you're not going to be. And you're not going to probably practice good hand hygiene, and you're probably not going to sit home wherever it is, because we all see the blinds down. So there's been rumors, Tim, and we'll take a look at the end in my comments about some of your shenanigans out in Florida.
Progressively got worse. In fact, on the way home from the villages, I couldn't even make it. I had to stop and sleep in the truck at a rest area, only a 2.5 hour drive from there. And I was just exhausted. So And then I felt like a little bit, hang on, let me turn that air off so you can hear me. I can't yell over it. I don't have the mic on. So
Why not?
anyway, it got worse. I'll try to make the story short. And
Can we? Well, it would be good because if you were feeling that sick, I promise you wouldn't be talking stories. I've worked with some of the sickest people you can imagine, Tim. So you've got to be pretty sick to impress my ability to think. And I'm looking at you and assessing you, by the way. I'm not, and you're well enough to do this. So that already tells me you've got way more energy than people who are really down and out with the something. So my recommendation would be stay home, take it easy, let it run its course. You're getting, things can take 2 or 3 days to recover. So give it time. But I don't think you have the patience in order to do so. So you could escalate an illness worse.
I called the doctor, my primary, and she said, cough on the phone. And she said, it sounds clear, so it's probably viral. I said, yeah, if you have a virus, antibiotics.
Never heard of that assessment tool in my life. There is no way that a doctor would get on the phone and ask somebody to cough and then make an assessment in that respect. If you're not getting in on somebody's lungs with your stethoscope, you have no idea what's happening. This I call not passing a smell test. It's not how we collect information. This, and then he just got on the phone with the doctor. Unlikely at this time of year.
Antibiotics don't help you, right? She goes, that's right. So she said, just drink plenty of fluids, get plenty of rest, and take over the counter like Mucinex. I told her I was taking.
And that's correct. Antibiotics do not fight viral infections. She would not be giving him a plan of care over the phone without having assessed him. Tim does not have a concierge hotline like this. This, in my opinion, in my professional experience, is something that never occurred. This is just BSery from our friend Tim. I'd like for him to prove me wrong.
No. Robitussin, the other day and a night. I bought that when I was sick once before. I had some of that left over. And that night was the worst night of my life until last night. I literally feel like I split my throat open inside, coughing so hard. It's such a violent cough that the convulsions are uncontrollable. And no matter which way I
milking it for everything it's worth. Well, obviously it wasn't so bad that you're not up the next day talking to the camera.
Lay propped up, down on my side, whatever. I doped up with Robitussin. I took a Tylenol. I took a sleeping pill, anything to knock me out. And I've been drinking.
I hope that wasn't any type of Robitussin with any type of, you got to be careful if it's got some certain types of cold medications and stuff, and then you're using that along with Ambien and things. Just, make sure you look at drug-to-drug interactions before, talk to the pharmacist before you start putting like cough medicines and sedatives together, especially psychotropic ones like Ambien.
Plenty of water. I gargled with salt. I bought a brand new
they work on
salt thing up there.
Tim.
And
Ambiens work on your neurotransmitters. So just be aware.
I've tried to do everything thinking that it's viral, and viruses can be pretty violent, pretty bad. You can feel very, very bad. But this morning when I got up, I decided that's it. I'm either going to go to ER.
I know people are going to think I'm not compassionate towards Tim because I don't think the story about the doctor's correct. And from what I'm seeing to Tim, yeah, he's got a cough. He's probably run down. He's probably overdone it. He doesn't stop. He don't feel good. And I think he's just, I know he's going to talk about somebody else at the end, but it's just Tim milking it for Tim. But he probably don't feel good. I mean, he's still getting a lot of views on the videos. So he's kind of probably saying, oh, look, I'm getting 9,000 views on just one video. It's kind of equals like when I've pushed out 7, getting 1,500. So maybe he's working out this is a better game for him. He's still making AdSense. So he don't care. He's still got Tingle in his pocket. I don't make a lot of money, people. I don't think I make in a month on this channel what I make in a day working.
Or I'm calling the doctor. So I said, let me try to call the doctor first. And they have, an after hours person. And a doctor did call me back and said, you're only 90 minutes away from the office opening. Just if you can wait, go to the office. They want to do a chest X-ray to see if you've got a lung infection or a sinus infection. They want to check the vitals, the blood pressure.
I don't know if all that happened. I mean, I could see that he potentially called an after hours doctor number and asked them, to call, but they usually go with specialties. I don't know if just like general practice, has a specialty quite like that. I mean, usually they just send those folks off to urgent care or tell people to call 911. So I'm surprised they have an after hours like that. I guess that's a pretty good office. I mean, that's good. Usually they don't really, not for things like this. They think if it's an emergency, you're going to the emergency room. Like if it's really an emergency. I mean, I don't know if it's worthy of all this. It's definitely not worth an emergency room. You will be at the bottom of a triage list, Timothy Baker, and you will hate life. You'll be sitting there for 10 hours.
Sure. And, I told him I have a splitting headache from coughing. And I don't necessarily have a fever or anything, but oh my gosh, I wouldn't wish this on anybody. And so I was reading your comments where one of you said that you have it, or several of you do, and you started being on the mend, and then it came back on you. And that's what happened to me.
Hey, great. Just some anecdotal stories in Tim's comment section. I mean, it's potentially that he called in after hours. I've just never known a primary care like that. I mean, usually if you call, they'll just say, call the office at this hour. And if it's an emergency, call 911. Or, go to, or they anticipate you'll go to one of these urgent cares that's open up till 10 a.m., or 10 p.m. or a later hour, which is what I would usually recommend. I think if it's this type of symptoms, they have a lot of different types of imaging systems, even at urgent cares. Just go to an urgent care that's in your network. Don't waste your time in an ER. I mean, that's for like trauma and stuff, Tim. We're not talking about somebody who's like felt like he coughed too much. It's not to say you don't have something, but I mean, I don't think somebody's going to be telling you the diagnostic test over the phone either. It just doesn't sound plausible. They have to do a differential diagnosis first. It's a lot more involved in this. You got to see somebody. They don't just say stuff. It sounds wild. Anyway, keep going, Tim.
Me yesterday, I wasn't like on the mend. I mean, I went and got my truck washed. I had to get some food in the house. So I had to go out, and I did. And I just ran the truck to the car wash. And during the day, you ever get this when you get sick?
Tim just saying that, they're all saying he's got to get all these tests and stuff. It doesn't happen like that. Unless they're hearing something in the lungs and they've put a stethoscope on you. They're not telling you over the phone like that what tests they're ordering. Not for somebody who just says he coughed all night and doesn't have a fever. I mean, you're still upright and talking and filming videos. Anyway, keep going, Tim.
At night, something happens. It changes to the worst. The cough comes on. It's always been that way my whole life. Every time I've been sick, when it gets dark, it gets worse. I don't know what that is. But last night, I wouldn't wish it on anybody. It was the longest night. I haven't even been asleep because I've been up coughing and my head hurts. But I'm going now. It's 7:19 a.m. I'm going to be there. Wow, we got fog out there. I'm going to be there.
I was surprised you got an appointment that quick. That's pretty good. I mean, just to get an appointment that fast at the doctor's office first thing in the morning? This time of year on your PCP? The only time you get into a doctor that quick is urgent care. There is no potential way that you could just, unless they just have, because I can't even get barely, unless unless you're an immune compromised pediatric patient, I don't see that, Tim is not somebody who's got like a lot of underlying chronic illnesses that would make somebody think that he's a rush case.
When they open, I'm going to call them and ask for a mask. And the first thing I want them to do is give me a bed. I don't want to sit in no chair and wait. Give me a bed and get on there.
bed? Are you talking like a patient room to get on the exam table? And who are you to be like with just these few symptoms going on? So you stayed up and you had a cough. Well, get some humidification going in the room so you're not so dry at night. Maybe help, help to moisten those mucous membranes, Tim. Just a thought. You can even get one that you literally, it just there's a thing and you twist a water bottle on it and it will create the humidification just from that. You can get real inexpensive solutions. So maybe that would be a solution. I don't think going into a doctor's office with this and that attitude that they're going to think that you're an urgent rush case. There are a lot of people with viral illnesses at this time of year. Usually the recommendations of management at the home. He's acting like he's got the worst lung infection either. And I don't hear that. I hear like a laryngeal thing going on. I don't really hear when he's coughing like it husking up from the lung.
And get your tools out and start checking me out, because this is horrible. I mean, the next stage is, death. I mean, this is a form of dying. Your health is just so bad. So I don't know if it's, COVID or if it's a flu or pneumonia. The doctor said you could have pneumonia. They got to do the
doctor did not make a differential diagnosis over the phone like that. That's why I just think this story is strange. Never would hear a physician without being very familiar with Tim's history just saying, oh, you could have this and you need a CT scan. And it just it's not plausible. It's not how you're trained to manage medicine here in the US. Take it from somebody who's training to be a provider.
These tests. And I was talking to a friend of mine who's also feeling very poorly, same way. He never got any of these COVID shots, and he hasn't had a flu shot in a few years, where I did, and I got the 65 and older shot just a few months ago before I went on my trip. So that dispels the myth that the shots are killing us or making us sick. I don't want any more of them, I can tell you that, because they don't work for that reason alone.
How do you know, Tim? How do you know if you wouldn't have had something worse were it not for the vaccine? You are an anecdotal story, and you are not the hallmark of evidence based on controlled randomized trials. You're not a gold standard. You're an old man talking to some other older person and sharing anecdotal stories. And I don't mean to insult people about their age, but it's just kind of that scenario.
And if this is a toned down version of what I would what I would feel
Stay
like
dry.
if I didn't have it.
That's a very dry cough. You need to just moisten your mucous membranes, Tim. In my opinion. I'm not treating or diagnosing.
Like I say, I wouldn't want to wish that on anybody. So I come out here and like tell you guys because that's just the way I am. I don't care. But I know that your prayers work, and I know that many of you, all of you, the majority of you really do pray.
Gosh, prayers. Is that the euphemism for money? Oh, goodness. Some people like this character. Other people don't understand. Tim likes a dry bag. Judge Joe Mathis was the one who clarified what is that term.
No. I simply asked. I said, I wish I could have that dry bag. Well, I mean, you know what that is.
Yeah. Yep. This, Kim's got to, fill his coffee cup, guys. He's out there spreading his illnesses, not taking care of other people or thinking of others. It's all about Tim. He's got to be seen immediately by the doctor. The minute he's not going to be sitting in a chair. He's very, because he's a, cancer patient, and we're concerned that he could really, take a turn for a worse.
I've been reading those comments, and it's hard to reply to all of them, but I want you to know I've read them all, and you're so kind, and I'll ask you to continue to pray, and support me in that way.
King of charisma.
Getting an address and putting my Christmas tree up and those kinds of things are going to come and go. I don't see at this date that unless I have a miracle cure today, how I can get my Christmas tree even put up. And it's such a simple thing. I don't even feel like doing anything but laying down.
And to be honest, Tim rather just have cash through Buy Me a Coffee. So cash donations happily accepted, in my opinion.
So this is totally out of my norm. I'm a very active person, walking and going to the gym and all that. And this putting me down like this, I thought, like
I would recommend maybe adding some fruits and vegetables to your diet to boost your immune system.
Said yesterday, I might have been,
hand hygiene.
slowly. I still had no voice.
Hand hygiene would be great too, Tim. Maybe washing your hands, maybe using hand sanitizer, maybe after you've touched your black water, maybe we'll use gloves while touching nasty stuff. Maybe not, rubbing your nose and touching your camera and coughing out into the crasher and whatever going on. Just basic hygiene.
But now physically, in my throat, I slathered on that Vicks last night and rubbed that on my chest and around my neck.
On your throat? What do you think it's going to do on your throat? The menthol is just going to be something that's going to be soothing in the lung area. If it's all scratchy up here in the throat, I mean, that's probably potentially like I said, a laryngitis. That you've been pushing it too hard. As I said, you went and took that long journey. You have more risk factors. You probably worn yourself out during a time of year where people get sick and you just don't see it. You rushed over. Been around a lot of people, in and out of casinos, people from all over parts of everywhere. And then you wonder why you don't feel good. This is a classic time of the year to get sick. But, for Tim, the world's crashing down because he can't pump out 20 videos a day. Tell you, it's a Christmas miracle if he totally goes down with laryngitis.
Gargled that salt water like 4 times. I was doing anything. I was desperate. Taking a Tylenol when I could. And I even dropped one of those sleeping pills reluctantly. I didn't want to, take too many meds. But I was doing all I could because it was after hours. And I certainly didn't feel like getting in my car and driving to an ER. I don't feel like going to the doctor now.
What is the ER going to do for you, Tim? No, nobody, if this is just some type of viral illness that needs to run its course, only you need to be staying home. When I got really sick, Tim, taking an antibiotic, I had a bad infection that took me down. And I had to be on antibiotics for months. And there was one point where they put me on these 2 antibiotics together that got me so sick, Tim, that I could not move off my couch. I certainly was nowhere near a camera doing anything on YouTube. I lost 10 pounds. I was literally living on Pedialytes and a cup and saltine crackers. I didn't even want to think about and ginger tea or something. I mean, I literally didn't want to eat or drink. It was awful. And it went on for days. And I didn't even think I was at the level of sick that some of the patients that I've had to work with in my career have been. And you were here, thoughts and prayers, and I'm going to get CT scans. And I am excited to see what you're going to come back and tell us story-wise. Because the word story when you start out is perfect.
But I'm going to. So that's the latest, folks. Please pray and think about Jeremy, too, who's got it worse than me. Hopefully he's doing a lot better. I haven't gotten a report lately, but he was going to be coming home, and they were going to be taking care of him there and getting his tracheotomy out and stuff. And there are people that are.
So somebody who's with a trach, and somebody's having to have a trach removed. And you're equating that type of trauma of being trached to whatever you've got going on, Tim? That's a false equivalency.
Much worse. So I empathize with anybody that doesn't have a smile and doesn't have their health, and they're just.
Great. Just what we all need. Tim smiles. I give smiles all day too with the baby I work with. But I'm not here talking about the blessings I provide all day long. And I'll have your sycophants in my comment section like Garth leaving, Tim, best channel ever. People think I make money from this, making my commentary. This is just fun for me.
Enduring pain and suffering, because I would rather be broke, disgusted, and under a bridge than to feel like this. I mean, this is no way to live. So
Calm it down, Tim. And cough, please, in the crux of your elbow. I mean, not that I'm not showing you sympathy as a nurse, but like I said, I've worked with far sicker patients than Tim. He's the type that you're just like, okay, everything's fine, and they just don't understand that they need to literally sit home and rest. But Tim wants somebody obviously waiting on him. Call Tammy, ask her to bring you over a biscuit and a zing.
let's pray that I do
really
feel better,
nice.
or the doctor can do something. Maybe enough time's gone by that it'll start to.
Unless you have some type of massive infection of the lung, which they would have to listen to some stethoscopes and do some lab work, Tim. At the moment, it sounds like you've got a dry hacking cough that kept you up all night because you were sleeping and you're laying flat, so things, your lung fields aren't as when you sit up and you're up, your lung field expands. Laying down and flat, your body is positioned differently. So yeah, your lungs you fold in your lungs, you cough. It's a different situation. That's why you've been busy all day. That's why people get like you're in a different position from standing. Why you feel different in the day and the night.
To get better. Oh my gosh. So I'm trying to have a little cup of coffee here, and believe it or not, I can't even.
If you were really feeling not that well, coffee is not what you'd be headed towards. That's not the fluid the doctor is thinking of. If you really talk to a doctor on the phone, they mean water, Pedialyte, something. You could do, sugar-free Gatorade.
Taste it. Heard about when you got COVID or something that the taste buds are not right. It's I hate to say it, but it isn't the best cup of coffee I ever drank in my life. I drank it, but anyway, folks.
Tim needs sympathy, guys. He really does. He's hurting here. Blinds are down. That's a story. We'll talk about that in a second.
Christmas is upon us. The doctors are going to do the right thing. I am going to go. I'm going to get tests. I got the disadvantage plan that's going to cover everything. No worries. But their guiding hands and the right course of action that they.
He's just saying this stuff to appease his, little followers who think he needs to see a doctor. Tim not going to see anybody.
Do on me. I would appreciate you praying. So get in there and crush those prayers.
Oh, yeah. Prayers by that he means crush out some, blessings for him. Send him coffee. Yeah. All right. So I wanted to show the top comments and a little bit about this story about, Tim's whereabouts potentially. So let me share this other screen instead. This is my last video. So I want to thank the my audience for their top comment, because the top comment is Tim Baker is lying through his whiskey-soaked breath. So Tim, that's what the community is saying. This is not my opinion. That's their opinion. The next highest rated comment is this particular one here. Timmy's sickness is about as serious as Johnny Vegas's heart condition. So there's little thought of either of the both being truthful about their health conditions. Now, this was an interesting story. They said that he's been spotted in a Walmart parking lot about 6:30 a.m. This was yesterday near the Bradenton area, by what I read, that a Darling subscriber posted this morning. So somebody watching Darling's video spotted Tim out in this area. Timmy's in a bad spot because he can't afford or find a place this time of year in Florida in that area, which makes sense. A lot of people in that area to escape the winter weathers up in the north. So he's drifting and grifting along, keeping shades pulled way down. He's probably been doing this for a while, maybe before the Nevada trip. So there's been a lot of chatter, the hater community, that, Tim's got the blinds down, and there's questions that he's obviously trying to keep his location on the DL, because usually when Tim is in any type of campsite, like he was when he returned with Miss Tammy and they had the campground and he was there with the RV, he really like showed the park and everybody's RVs, and we don't see any of that. So this makes, potential plausible sense. That's why he keeps the bang bang around. He's in bad neighborhoods, won't even look inland for a cheap place. He'll take his chances in the asphalt jungle. So that was, I thought, interesting. Let's see the replies. I usually make a reply. Somebody else said, so I just said, good to know. And this person says, why is it good to know? Not excusing anything bad things ST may have done, but the obsession of these channels while ignoring the far worse misdeeds that are occurring all around us each day speaks to the mindless herd gang mentality of these channels, which is not a great human virtue. Actually, we do provide a service. We make sure that Tim doesn't try to get huge sums of money from vulnerable elderly people, because if you take a look at his buy me a coffee, Tim does pretty good. So we just always want to make sure. And also there is questions about Tim potentially taking in our opinions, and there is some documentation about what loans he took. How was he able to get these government loans on your taxpayer dollars? So if you're all okay with that, that's okay with you, but we're not. So there you go. All right, guys. Oh, that's a nice shot of me. All right, let me make me big. That was a great shot. Anyway, this video got too long, so I need to end it now. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye. Take